welcome back to my channel. Currently reading, coming to you live from Montana on the ranch. I hope you can see these mountains behind me. They're pretty awesome, and it's such a nice day today, so that's why I wanted to come out here. It's in the upper 50s, so it's pretty nice, but it is windy, and I've been having troubles with my phone falling over, so let's see how long I can make it without it falling over. Today's book I'm going to be talking about is Caitlin Doughty's Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs? Big questions from tiny mortals about death. Trigger warning, this is going to be a book about death and bodies, human bodies. So if you're not into that, then skip this video. But I'm sorry to tell you, but we're all gonna die. So this is not news. You're gonna be dead one day. Anyway, this happens anyway. So I first learned about Caitlin a few years ago from my friend who is a funeral director. She told me about Caitlin's YouTube channel, Ask a Mortician. And I watched some of her videos and I was like, this chick is great. She's funny. The way she delivers her videos, I mean, I'm sure she can more eloquently say this, but you know, she talks about death, you know, in a easy, beginner friendly way, and I think that's important. Let's see, what was I saying? Oh, and she also looks exactly how you would imagine a funeral director to look like. So I highly recommend checking out her YouTube channel. Anyway, so a few years ago, I read her book, From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death. And it was during a time when I was dealing with the loss of the love of my life, my cat, and I wanted to read books about death to help me process and validate my feelings, right? And that book was fascinating, probably one of the most fascinating books I've ever read. And she basically just travels the world, learning how different cultures process death, how they deal with the dead bodies. And so from like Mexico to Indonesia and Japan and just all over, and fascinating. Highly recommend you checking that out. And I also learned about Recompose from that book, and so that is about human composting, so composting human bodies. And the woman Katrina Spade, who was trying to start this industry, I guess, and now several years later she has a facility up and running doing this, just starting in Washington. They've had to pass legislation to allow for this in Washington and Oregon and Colorado, I believe, because, you know, in traditional ways it's what, burial or cremation. And personally, I do not want to be buried. I think it's a waste of money and a waste of space. So I always thought cremation was going to be the only option. I think a lot of people think it's the more eco-friendly way. You know, a lot of people in urban areas, that's what they're dealing with, is there's not room anymore in the cemeteries. So, you know, more people are being cremated, but it's really not very eco-friendly because of the energy. It's super energy intensive, you know, for fueling the flames. And anyway, so I always like the idea of becoming a tree, right? Like growing a tree, and composting seems like the best way and the most natural way, and that's what I personally want to do for my own body. And I'm really passionate about this, so much so that I applied for a job from them, and even talked to my funeral director friend about maybe starting our own one day. Like, that's how passionate I am about this, because I think it's revolutionary, right? Like I said, in this country, in the Western world, like I said, you know, it's cremation or burial. And that's why that book From Here to Eternity was so interesting, because you learn like the rest of the world doesn't necessarily do that, or, you know, it's fairly recent. You know, what did people do 100, 200 years ago with the dead? So I think the Recompose process is revolutionary, and I think that it's going to be the main way the main death care, end of death care, end of life care, that's what it is, end of life care is headed. So look into that. But anyway, back to this book. Caitlin is very funny. She's very witty. That's apparent in her videos. It's apparent in her writing. This book is just lots of chapters of a simple question that I think she said were from kids. You know, kids can be very blunt, and whereas adults are more, you know, restricting themselves of asking more ridiculous questions. And so each chapter has a fairly ridiculous question that Caitlin will answer in a humorous but educating way, which in my opinion I think is the best way to do it, especially about a subject like death. Some of the questions are, let me read you. One of them is, will my cat eat my eyeballs? Let's see. What would happen to an astronaut body in space? Can I keep my parents' skulls after they die? Will my body sit up or speak on its own after I die? Can I preserve my dead body in amber like a prehistoric insect? Will I poop when I die? Let's see. Can we give Grandma a Viking funeral? What would happen if you died on a plane? Will my hair keep growing in my coffin after I'm buried? Let's see. We eat dead chickens. Why not dead people? And why don't bugs eat people's bones? That's only a few of the questions. And so, like I said, her answers are fairly humorous but educating, and I learned a lot. Like, I learned about, you know, how hot it gets in a crematory, how long it takes to cremate the body, you know, about the bones that are pulverized into making ashes or cremated remains, about she, like I said, describes the smell of a dead corpse, you know, a dead body, which is a corpse. So very interesting, and you know, this is probably not for everybody, but it should be for everybody, because everybody's going to die, and I think the more we talk about it, the more we can go through the process of grieving and in a more healthy way. Like, we need to talk about this with our loved ones, what they want to do, what they want to have done. Yeah, because we're all gonna die, and that's life and death. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. I'm trying to think of something like very poignant, very wise to leave on, but I don't. I wish I could leave with some kind of quote. Maybe I should read something that she says. I can't remember. There was one part where I was like laughing out loud, but I can't remember now. Oh, wow, it's not that funny, but once Grandma has had her time to decompose, her bones need to step aside for a whole new generation of rotting corpses. I wonder if anyone has ever written that exact sentence before. I wonder that a lot. Thought that was interesting. Anyway, check it out if you want. Don't if you don't. Until next time, keep reading.